I was halfway through rewriting a quarterly pitch deck with half the data, twice the expectations, when word hit the floor like a dropped glass. Big announcement at 3 p.m. Slack lit up like Vegas. Everyone started playing corporate Clue. "It's the restructuring," someone said. "No, I heard it's the promotion." My name floated through the static like a prayer and a prediction. 15 years of late nights, red ice, and salvaging deals that junior reps fumbled at the 1-yard line. It was supposed to be my win. Hell, 2 weeks ago, the CFO pulled me aside after a client dinner and said, "Big changes coming. Just stay flexible." That's code for, "You're about to get bumped up. Don't do anything stupid." I didn't. I just did my job, kept my mouth shut, cleaned up another mess when Glenn from sales called the client's CFO sweetheart on a Zoom. I massaged egos, shifted timelines, babysat egos twice my pay grade, and turned Q2 from a liability into a press release. The role in question? VP of Client Strategy. A glorified title with a seat at the table, a slice of profit share, and, most importantly, a voice that wasn't filtered through 3 layers of executive BS. I'd built the client playbooks, trained half the team, and was the reason our largest account didn't bolt after last year's integration screw-up. Everyone knew it, even the boss, especially the boss. But you learn to be quiet in this business. You don't ask. You anticipate. You don't say you deserve it. You make them say it first. So when 2:59 p.m. rolled around, I straightened my collar and minimized the deck. They sent out a calendar block, Town Hall, Strategic Vision 2026, which was just HR speak for, "Someone's getting crowned." I didn't expect a cake. I didn't need a plaque. Just a nod, a name drop, maybe even a handshake. I clicked into the Zoom. There was our boss, Jack Whitmore, the kind of man who mistook golf metaphors for leadership, who said client journey like it was something he invented. He smiled into the camera, flanked by the HR director and a digital background of a fake office skyline. "Team," he started. "Thank you for joining on such short notice. We're making a key leadership announcement today that reflects our commitment to innovation and legacy." Legacy. The word hit weird, but I let it pass. He continued, "Effective immediately, we're proud to introduce our new Vice President of Client Strategy, Tyler Whitmore." Silence. I didn't blink, didn't move, just stared into the screen while the intern unmuted to fake clap and someone else dropped a clapping hands emoji. Tyler fucking Whitmore. His nephew. The kid who once asked me in the break room if net 30 meant 30% off. The same clown who showed up drunk to last year's client mixer wearing Yeezys and a backward hat. The guy who thought pipeline velocity was a euphemism for his crypto portfolio. He popped up on screen next to Jack, grinning like a man who just inherited a boat he didn't know how to drive. "Hey y'all, pumped to be here. Can't wait to synergize," he said, finger-gunning the camera like a frat boy on LinkedIn. I didn't hear the rest. My ears were full of static. Not rage, not even disappointment, just static. The Slack pings kept coming. "WTF? Did you know? Are they serious?" I closed Slack, closed Zoom, closed my laptop. Then I leaned back in my chair, exhaled through my nose, and let the silence settle in. A moment passed. Then I smiled just a little. Not the kind of smile you wear when you're surprised. The kind you wear when you knew the punchline was coming, and you'd already started writing your own. Tyler showed up on Monday with a Patagonia vest over a $600 t-shirt, holding an iced matcha like it was a personality trait. First thing out of his mouth wasn't "good morning," but "we're gonna disrupt the whole engagement paradigm." I wish I was kidding. He'd been in the building less than 6 hours and had already scheduled a vision alignment stand-up for the whole strategy team. That's code for, "I have no idea what I'm doing, but let's pretend I'm a thought leader." He stood at the head of the glass conference room, my old seat, mind you, holding court like he was giving a TED talk to a room full of people too tired to clap. "We've been too reactive," he said, pacing. "Too married to legacy clients. What if we focused on high-speed growth verticals instead?" Glenn from sales nodded along like a bobblehead with a mortgage. The junior reps scribbled notes like any of this meant anything. I sat there, arms folded, tracking buzzwords like shrapnel. And then came the bomb. I think we should deprioritize the Houston account for Q4. They're kinda stagnant, yeah? Let me tell you about the Houston account. They're not stagnant. They're a sleeping giant. $14 million annually, with fingers in 4 emerging markets. And I've been their guy since the day their former CMO called us vendor scum. Now, they send me Christmas cards. Invite me to their daughter's charity auctions. I've fixed their deliverables blindfolded and brokered deals with their APAC partners over Thanksgiving dinner. So I said nothing. I just looked at him. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Unless anyone thinks differently? Tyler said with that cocky millennial smirk that comes from never being told no. I shrugged. Let's circle back when Q3 closes. They're evaluating a new data pipeline. Could be a 7-figure opportunity. He blinked. Oh, yeah, cool. Let's park it for now. That became the game. Tyler throwing spaghetti at the wall, reorg charts, scrapping our CRM system because his buddy was launching a disruptive SaaS tool in beta, suggesting we gamify our onboarding process with NFTs. I wish I were making that up. And me quietly cleaning it up before it cost us anything real. On Tuesday, he joined a call with a long-standing client and spent 15 minutes talking over their CFO to pitch cross-platform co-activation. When they asked what that meant, he said, you know, the stuff that gets engagement, like TikToks but for B2B. I spent the next hour on a follow-up call smoothing things over. On Wednesday, he barged into pitch prep and asked why we didn't start every proposal with a meme. It's how Gen Z communicates now, he explained, as if he'd discovered language. By Thursday, the cracks weren't cracks anymore. They were fault lines. I got a text from Megan, our Houston liaison, during a late-night email grind. Hey, real talk. Who is this new guy? Tyler? He doesn't seem like you. I replied, new leadership direction. Growing pains. Then, after a pause, she wrote, if you ever leave, I want to know first. I stared at that text for a long time. Friday morning, she called me directly. Voice low, concern in every syllable. Look, she said, we're not panicking yet, but it feels off, like he's chasing something shiny instead of taking care of us. I didn't defend him, didn't spin it, didn't play politics. I just said, let's give it a week, because I already knew I wasn't staying longer than that. It was a Wednesday night when the memory clawed its way out of the vault. I was sitting in my garage because the house was too quiet and the bourbon hit better in the company of oil stains and lawn equipment, when I remembered the merger. 7 years back. Chaos in a pantsuit. Our firm had absorbed a boutique consultancy with the grace of a raccoon swallowing a Rubik's Cube. Everything was last minute. Contracts redlined at midnight, HR forms backdated. Onboarding so messy we once hired the same analyst twice. Everyone was too busy praying the deal wouldn't crater to actually read what they were signing. Everyone but me. See, that wasn't my first rodeo. I'd worked at a firm where the founder's idiot son got promoted to director of strategy after he posted a viral vine of himself chugging ranch dressing. That walking cautionary tale cost us a 6-figure client and half the account team. Ever since, I'd made it a rule. If I saw a family name on a payroll sheet, I lawyered up. So during that merger chaos, I slipped in one clause, just one line of legal landmine. Clause 8. In the event of verifiable nepotism or favoritism impacting internal advancement or promotion decisions, any and all non-compete provisions shall be rendered null and void. It was small, technical, buried in page 11 of a 32-page addendum. My attorney, an old college roommate with a penchant for petty clauses, called it a fire escape built into a hay bale. Legal skimmed it, signed it, HR filed it, and I forgot about it. Until that night. Until Tyler Whitmore called a meeting to announce a TikTok challenge for Q4 lead gen. That's when it hit me like a thunderclap in a graveyard. Clause 8 still exists. I set my drink down, walked inside, flipped on the attic light, dug through 3 boxes marked 2009 taxes, divorce stuff, and work SHT don't touch. And there it was, inside an old accordion folder I hadn't cracked open since the Cubs were underdogs. my full merger contract, with ink still bold and my initials on every page. I sat cross-legged on the attic floor like I was back in Catholic school, holding scripture. There it was, page 11, middle of the paragraph, sandwiched between two more mundane policies about PTO rollover and stock vesting caps. Clause 8. I read it 3 times, then once more out loud, to the insulation and dead spiders. It was still binding, still signed, still filed, and now, activated. Jack Whitmore hadn't just handed his nephew a VP title. He'd handed me a clean escape route, one they couldn't block, sue, or silence. I didn't shout, didn't text anyone, didn't rage tweet or plot a dramatic walkout. I just sat there, smiling like a man who found the spare key buried under 10 years of bullshit. Because revenge doesn't need fireworks or fists. It needs paperwork. And I just remembered where I put mine. Thursday morning, I shaved a little closer than usual and wore the good watch. My quiet ritual for when I'm about to do something irreversible. The office smelled like cold brew and self-delusion. Tyler was hosting a culture sync in the lounge area, whiteboard in one hand, kombucha in the other, drawing pyramids labeled synergy zones. He wore sneakers that cost more than my rent in 2006. I didn't hear a word. I was already gone. Back at my desk, I opened a browser tab and pulled up a resume I hadn't touched since the pandemic. It was yellowed and dusty in tone, stuffed with acronyms that no longer mattered. But the bones were strong. 15 years, 5 flagship accounts, more client retention awards than most VPs could fake. I didn't embellish, didn't add fluff, just stripped it clean and let the facts breathe. Then I picked up the phone. Baker and Rowe Legal, the voice said. Hey, is Paul in? Tell him it's his old Friday poker debt calling. Paul laughed before he even got on the line. I knew you'd collect eventually. What's up? Need eyes on a clause. And maybe some paperwork filed. Quietly. How quiet? Church mouse whispering in a blackout. He paused. Send it over. I'll burn the coffee. I emailed him the contract with clause 8 highlighted and bolded. 3 hours later, he called back. Holy shit. They signed this? They did. And you're telling me? Yep. You're free as a bird if the boss's nephew got the gig? That's the idea. A low whistle. I'll prep the paperwork. That afternoon, in a little corner of the internet known only to county clerks and bitter ex-entrepreneurs, I filed incorporation papers for Hollow Bridge Strategies, LLC. Just a name, just a shell. No office, no team, yet, but it was mine. No HR department, no Nepo baby with espresso breath, no glass conference rooms where ideas went to die. Mine. I didn't tell anyone at the firm, not even my work friends. This wasn't about drama. It was about direction. Next, I opened LinkedIn, searched Megan H., Houston Global, Terrence V., Rhine Point Logistics, and Elise D., Dartmoor Biotech. All longtime clients. People who had seen me work miracles with no sleep and bad briefs. People I'd stayed late for, gone to bat for, flown coach at 5 a.m. for. I didn't write a pitch. Just this. Hey, would love to grab coffee sometime next week. Let me know what works for you. Nothing suspicious. Just an old connection checking in. By sundown, I'd heard back from all 3. Next Tuesday? Your place or mine? Been meaning to catch up. Let's do it. You're not leaving the firm, are you? Eyes. I didn't reply to that last one. Instead, I closed my laptop, sat back, listened to the rain tap against the window like a metronome for war drums. People think revenge is hot-blooded, furious, loud. They're wrong. It's a process. And mine had just quietly begun. Friday started like any other. A stale donut in the break room, someone microwaving fish at 8:45 a.m., and Tyler holding a fireside stand-up about cross-pollination through proactive brand honesty. I let it all pass through me like static. I didn't need closure, just a timestamp. I waited until 9:03 a.m., after payroll posted and right as everyone was too buried in their inboxes to notice a ripple in the current. Then I opened Outlook. New message. To Jack Whitmore, CEO, Nancy Krill, HR, Marlene from Legal, CC myself. Subject line, Clause 8. Attachment. 1 PDF. Titled simply, Formal Resignation _Lewis_Martin.pdf. Body. Per Clause 8. My non-compete is rendered null. I wish the firm continued success. No emojis. No exclamation points. No clever sign-offs. Just facts. The kind that make people sweat through a blazer. I hit send. Then I stood up, slipped my access badge from my lanyard, and laid it gently on the polished surface of my desk. Right next to the pen holder Tyler had stolen from my office during his first week because he liked the vibes. I didn't clear my browser history, didn't wipe my mug, didn't wave to the receptionist. I just walked. The elevator dinged. I wrote it down alone. Lobby music was playing something smooth and indifferent, sod, I think. The front doors hissed open to a soft breeze and the smell of city asphalt heating under late morning sun. By 9:21 a.m., I was halfway through my usual walk to Haversham Coffee, sipping black cold brew like a man without deadlines. My phone stayed silent, but the emails, oh, they must have been lighting up like a Christmas tree dipped in gasoline. Back at the office, Marlene from legal would have been the first to open it. She's fast, methodical, sharp, except for one oversight. She'd never flagged Clause 8. No one had. She'd open the attachment, read it once, twice, realize what it meant. No non-compete, no binding clause, no legal teeth, just freedom. And not just any freedom, licensed freedom, rubber-stamped by the firm's own negligence. 15 minutes after I hit send, I imagine the chain reaction detonated. Slack messages flying. Legal and HR ping-ponging panic back and forth like a live grenade. Jack probably still mid-round at the golf simulator in his office when Nancy storms in, phone in hand, voice flat. You need to read this. Now. He'd squint at the subject line, Clause 8. And then he'd remember. Or maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he'd turn pale before the memory even landed. But the CFO? He definitely remembered. Because he was there 7 years ago when I pushed for that clause. He laughed it off at the time. Said I was paranoid about ghosts. But he initialed it anyway, told me, you'll never need it. We're not that kind of company. And now? They were exactly that kind of company. The kind that promotes family over backbone. The kind that just lost their safety net, while he was too busy watching stock prices and PowerPoints to see the floor falling out. As I sat at the corner table of Haversham, watching the espresso machine hiss like a sleeping dragon, I didn't feel giddy. I felt calm. No yelling. No tantrum. Just a ripple that would become a wave they wouldn't see coming until the lobby was empty, and their clients were sipping coffee across the street with me. Back at the firm, Friday spiraled into a soft kind of hell. Not fire and brimstone. More like the moment a plane cabin depressurizes and no one knows whether to scream or sip their coffee. The kind of chaos that smells like cheap toner, cold sweat, and desperation masked with lavender Febreze. It started with Marlene from legal, who dug into the HRIS system to confirm what she hoped was a bluff. But there it was, buried in a folder from 7 years back labeled Legacy Merge Docs, Final V2. The real, inked, fully executed contract. My initials on every page. The final signature line dated and countersigned by both legal and HR. Clause 8. Alive. Kicking. Airtight. The non-compete they were banking on? Dead before it ever left the cradle. She called Nancy from HR. Nancy called Jack. Jack didn't answer. He was golfing again, his third strategic clarity break that week. So Nancy texted him. Short and sweet. It's real. Meanwhile, the CFO was pacing his office like a man waiting on biopsy results. He remembered Clause 8 the second he saw the subject line. Hell, he probably heard the echo of our original conversation in his head. It's just insurance, I'd said at the time, in case nepotism gets in the way. Lewis, you really think we'd ever do that to you? Apparently, yes. Yes, they did. Jack eventually strolled back into the office like he hadn't just detonated the strategic future of his own company. Let's not overreact, he said, smoothing down his hair like a guy preparing for a photo op, not a board-level inquisition. He won't do anything, he told the room. Louis is too loyal. He'll cool off. Maybe freelance a little, sure. But he's not the type to pull clients. Marlene just stared at him, blinking once like a disappointed teacher. He doesn't have to pull them, Jack. You gave them to him. They trust him more than they trust your nephew. And that was the real problem, wasn't it? Because while they were scrambling to contain the legal wildfire, I was across town at a corner bistro, drinking an espresso and nodding through small talk with Megan from Houston Global. She didn't mention Tyler once. She just slid a folder across the table and said, "If you do start something, anything, we'd rather go with you." I smiled. Didn't commit. Just listened. Asked questions. Let her talk. At that same moment, across the city, Elise from Dartmoor was texting my Google Voice number to confirm our Tuesday lunch. Terrence from Rhine Point had replied to my DM with, "Can we talk sooner?" None of them were under contract with exclusivity clauses. All of them had review windows opening within 2 weeks. And not one of them had mentioned Jack, or the firm, or the new VP. Just me. Inside the firm, whispers had turned into background noise. The sales team, nervous. The junior analysts, whispering in corners. Even the receptionist looked jumpy every time the elevator dinged, as if expecting an exodus. Jack held an emergency stand-up that afternoon. Tyler fumbled his way through a speech about fortifying brand trust in transitional moments. It was like watching a houseplant try to explain quantum mechanics. Someone in the back raised their hand and asked point-blank, "Are the Houston rumors true?" Jack snapped, "There are no rumors. Louis just left to explore other opportunities." That's it. But it wasn't it. Because by then, everyone knew the truth. Louis Martin didn't rage quit. He didn't threaten. He didn't storm out. He vanished and left the oxygen tanks leaking. He hadn't raised his voice once. And still, somehow, everyone could hear him. It started Monday morning with a calendar ping. Subject, call re. Account transition, Houston Global. Scheduled for 9 a.m. sharp. Jack assumed it was just routine. Maybe some mid-quarter reallocation, maybe a little hand-holding from the client's new procurement lead. He forwarded it to Tyler, added a winky face, and went back to playing strategist on LinkedIn. But at 9:02, Megan from Houston got on the call with legal already looped in, and her voice steeled like rebar under silk. "We'll be transferring the account effective immediately," she said, crisp and calm. "Per the terms of our agreement, we're within our rights to terminate with 5 days' notice, but in this case, we're waiving it. Louis will be handling us directly from now on." Jack blinked. "I'm sorry, Louis?" "Yes." Tyler unmuted. Wait. What do you mean he's handling you? He doesn't work here anymore." "That's correct," Megan said, unbothered. "He works with us now." The line went dead quiet. Jack started sputtering something about continuity of service. But it was too late. She was already signing off. "We're grateful for the years of support. Please ensure all remaining assets are transferred by end of day." At 10:31, Dartmoor Biotech emailed their transition paperwork. By 1:17, Rhine Point sent a secure Dropbox link for offboarding files and included a note. "Appreciate your time. We're excited to work with Louis again." 3 clients. Gone. Just like that. No drama. No breach. Nothing illegal. Nothing actionable. Just clean, dry exits from accounts that made up nearly a third of quarterly revenue. At 2:42, the board met without Jack in the room. They asked for data, for retention plans, for explanations. The CFO looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 days. Marlene sat stone-faced, arms folded, the contract with Clause 8 printed and highlighted in front of her like a murder weapon. Jack finally got called in. "This is contained," he insisted. "It's not like he's stealing clients." "Then what do you call it?" someone asked. Tyler sat in the corner of the boardroom like a frat boy at his first deposition, scrolling Slack like the answers might be hiding between emojis. "I don't understand," he mumbled almost to himself. "Why would they follow him?" Marlene didn't look up. "Because they trusted him, Tyler. And we just handed them a reason to leave." Jack tried to pivot, offered vague handwaves about aggressive counters and retention campaigns. But the room had shifted. No one was listening to solutions anymore. They were counting losses, charting the slope of the fall. And me? I was back in a quiet corner office of my own. Modest, 2 rooms, one intern folding branded folders like it was sacred origami. I didn't say anything to the press. Didn't leak a quote. Didn't tweet some smug karma line with a whiskey glass emoji. I just opened my secure client folder and dragged in 3 fully executed contracts, signed and sealed. Then I emailed Paul, my legal friend, with the subject, new onboards. No fanfare, no fire, just paperwork. And on the glass door behind me, fresh vinyl letters now read, Hollow Bridge Strategies. Underneath, in smaller font, built on what they broke. ChatGPT skazal. The new office didn't have a marble lobby or kombucha on tap. It had creaky floorboards, a front desk we salvaged off Craigslist, and a coffee maker that wheezed like it had asthma. But it was ours. On day 1, the light flickered over the front window just enough to make the dust glow like gold. And I remember thinking, this is what real feels like. We didn't build hollow bridge strategies to compete on Flash. We built it to function, to serve, to remember what this job used to mean before buzzwords and backroom bloodlines. I didn't poach a single soul. That's the part people keep forgetting. They came to me. First was June, brilliant data analyst who'd been stuck 3 years in the same cube at the old firm because client-facing roles weren't her strength. Funny, since she'd rewritten 2 of our client dashboards and saved the Houston campaign from a full-stop failure last year. She emailed me the morning after the exodus. Lewis, if you're building something, I want in. Then came Omar. Smart, precise, fresh out of his MBA and already pulling weight like a senior. Jack had passed him up twice, once for a nepotism hire, and once because he needed more polish. I hired him after 1 Zoom call and a handshake. They didn't want ping-pong tables or rooftop wine mixers. They wanted respect. Within a week, we had desks, chairs, a working Slack channel, and 3 high-retention clients fully on board. June built a forecasting model in 72 hours that outpaced anything we used back at the firm. Omar redesigned our proposal template with surgical clarity. Clients loved it, called it refreshing. And then the real emails started. Old coworkers, quiet messages. Heard what you did. Damn. You hiring. Things feel off here now. You got room for 1 more. Tyler just made gamified KPI Thursdays mandatory. Please help. I didn't reply to all of them. Not yet. We were still lean. Still scrappy. I wasn't gonna grow just to say we did. That's how empires rot. Swelling on ego, not purpose. Meanwhile, back at the firm, Tyler was busy launching his Vision 360 campaign. Some Frankenstein marketing push full of QR codes, glitchy motion graphics, and a company TikTok that opened with him saying, "What's up, growth fam?" Like he was pitching energy drinks, not strategy. Clients didn't bite. One campaign flopped so hard the firm pulled it mid-rollout and blamed it on algorithmic misalignment. Morale at the firm plummeted. People weren't angry, just tired. Tired of being promised a seat at the table and getting a folding chair in the hallway instead. Tired of watching people like Tyler climb ladders built on last names while the rest of them held the base steady and prayed not to be crushed. At Hollow Bridge, we worked differently. Quiet mornings, honest metrics, deliverables that didn't need buzzwords to shine. We weren't in it to be loud. We were in it to last. And for the first time in 15 years, I wasn't managing damage. I was building, not from bitterness, not from vengeance, from clarity, from knowing exactly what I never wanted to go back to. The boardroom was cold, those corporate tombs always are. Frosted glass. Mahogany table too big for the number of people actually left. Jack sat at the head, jaw clenched so tight his molars could have cracked granite. He looked older, grayer. Not like time had passed, but like it had landed on him, hard. Legal was already mid-sentence, voice flat and clinical, like she was reading an autopsy report. Clause 8, enforceable, filed, a matter of record, executed as part of the 2016 merger onboarding, binding under all present employment law. No one said a word. You could hear the HVAC breathing. She flipped a page, continued without flinching. As such, Mr. Martin's departure was lawful. No breach of non-compete. No cause for injunction. Jack rubbed his temple like he could squeeze the clause out of existence. Across from him, an investor rep leaned forward slowly, steepling his hands like a man preparing to deliver a eulogy. So let me get this straight. You promoted your nephew over your senior strategist, and in doing so activated a clause you signed 7 years ago, which then allowed him to leave and take 3 of our largest accounts with him. Jack tried to spin it. It wasn't intentional favoritism. It was, no. The investor cut in, calm and deadly. What it was negligence. He looked down at the quarterly report. 3 fat red lines where green used to be. 3 accounts gone. Employee morale in the toilet. And your nephew just launched a campaign with an animated goat mascot named Stratty. Another board member groaned audibly. Someone whispered, Jesus. Legal slid the contract across the table. Highlighted in yellow, Clause 8. Final page. My signature, Jack's, and the firm's. Stamped. Sealed. Too late. Meanwhile, across town, I was sipping coffee in our little 2-room office. June was on a Zoom call walking Dartmoor through our new analytics interface. Omar had his headphones on, fine-tuning next quarter's pitch deck. Peaceful. Focused. I stood in my office, watching the rain bead on the window, a small frame in my hand. Inside it, a printed copy of Clause 8. The sentence that gave me the key to everything. I hung it right next to the door. Not to gloat. Not to gawk at it every morning like a victory trophy, but as a reminder of what not to tolerate, of what we build when we stop begging for tables and start carving our own. As I stepped back to look at it, the silence felt earned. Not triumphant, just clean. My phone buzzed. Another client inquiry. Another name I recognized. Another heard you're doing things different over there. I didn't smile, just nodded to myself. Sat down, got back to work. And in the quiet of that room, with the hum of good people doing good work around me, I thought, they expected a tantrum, a scene, flames and fury. But I didn't need to burn bridges. They built the door. I just walked out through it,